Yes, a very good morning and thank you for keeping it NTV Uganda. My name is Romeo Busiku and I come to you yet again with another pertinent conversation, largely focusing on efforts to actually pass the draft National Peace Building and that is a conflict transformation policy into law. Well, the ongoing process to develop the draft peace policy dates back to the year 2000. That's what we do know. But this actually policy made its way to the Prime Minister's office. That was around 2015. So we'd like to know, why has it stalled in the Prime Minister's office, yet it is actually doing a lot of good? We do have the Deputy Executive Director of the Women's International Peace Center, Juliet Were, who says that Uganda actually grapples with diverse conflicts that are election related, that could be having something to do with socio-political and all the climate change issues that we are dealing with right now. A case in point has to do with something within Karamoja. Hunger has killed over 900 people. Yes, in the 5 districts that make up the Karamoja sub-region. There is Napak, there is Moroto, there is Amudat, you have Kotido, and you also, those are the districts within the Karamoja sub-region. But 900 people have so far died because of hunger, 49 in Napak. But a good thing, we have the Honorable Member of Parliament for Bokora East in Napak district, Mr. Peter Lochap, and he's already here with us. He'll be telling us why the situation has actually regressed within the Karamoja sub-region and why people are dying, yet Uganda is a middle-income country in that regard. We also do know that cattle rustling is also leading to so many sleepless nights on the other hand of the citizens and also members of security. But if you speak to some of the people hailing from the Karamoja sub-region, they will tell you that the presence of the UPDF has actually done some good, more than, you know, the cons that are actually attributed to the security forces being within that region. 400 of the young people in this area have actually been arrested by members of security. So we are here to talk about the fact that if we had a peace policy in place, we wouldn't be grappling with the hunger-related problems within Karamoja. We wouldn't be having all the election-related violent episodes that we were dealing with in 2016, especially when the central government or the military attacked the Rwenzururu kingdom. According to the peace mediators, they are saying that if we had a peace policy within, as a law within this country, we would have been able to alleviate or handle that situation so that it doesn't culminate into what happened within Rwenzururu when hundreds of people were killed. Also, a case in point could be the 2020 elections and the campaigns that saw, yes, a number of NUP supporters actually being rounded up arbitrarily and others being killed. If we had a peace policy, it would have been able to strike its institutional framework into play and have a dialogue to iron out all these issues. Right now, we could also be having dialogue on how best to actually strike out a transition away from President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni without the use of violence in that regard. So that is the whole crucial significance of this draft peace building and conflict transformation policy in that regard. But I do have some very good 5 panelists that are going to be engaging us on this very issue. We do have the Deputy Executive Director for the Women's International Peace Center, that is none other than Miss Juliet Were. She's with me right here in studio. In the middle, I also do have the Member of Parliament for Bokora East in the Park District, that is Honorable Peter Lochap. He's going to tell us a few issues on what is happening within his district. 49 have already succumbed out of the 900 to hunger-related issues within this region. Many of those who have died actually did have comorbidities, coexisting morbidities like HIV and also tuberculosis, hepatitis B, if you will. A situation that also actually made the situation worse for many Ugandans during the 2 years when we were under lockdown. But for the Karamojongs, or the people within the Karamoja sub-region, they are still suffering even as we speak right now. So what would the peace policy have changed in that regard if it were into law? That's why we are here, to bring to light the advantages of the peace building and conflict transformation policy in that regard. In studio, I also have the Assistant Commissioner. That is Chirabira Florence. She is actually the National Coordinator, Conflict Early Warning and Early Response Unit, that is in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Remotely, we shall also talk to some of the peace mediators from Moroto District and also one from Kotido District. The one from Kotido District is known as Jessica Atar Ruth. She is the Kotido Peace Mediator, and we also do have Stephanie Adupa. She is the peace mediator from Moroto district. So would like to know what in their small capacities are they doing to ensure that we alleviate and bring to the problems that are affecting the people within those jurisdictions, and we also egg on the parliamentarians and the central government to expeditiously pass the peace building and conflict transformation policy into law. Without much further ado, let me engage my panelists or guests in that regard. Juliet, Mr. Peter, and also Florence Chidabida, thank you for joining us right here on this show. Let me kick off with you, Juliet Werde. Let's kick off with enlightening the members of the public on the draft peace building and conflict transformation policy that you like to call the draft peace policy. What is it?
The draft peace policy is a key document. It's a key framework that the government of Uganda and other stakeholders have been working together to ensure that it comes into a legal framework. Its origins are founded in the fact that Uganda has been having different conflicts and different violence incidences, pre-independence and post-independence. And most of these issues have not been addressed, and as a result, we see different incidences, a number of cases, a number of agitation re-emerging in different ways.
Indeed.
In the year 2000, at one of the meetings of the Great Lakes region, the International Conference of the Great Lakes, that was deliberating on how to deal with the issues of illegal small arms and light weapons in the Horn of Africa and in East Africa at large. And one of the key issues that was resolved that member states need to come up with peace policies that would guide the managing of conflicts, the development of plans, and the response to conflicts as they emerge, but also managing issues of the proliferation of small arms through the porous borders in the countries. We are also cognizant that Uganda has been a host to refugees from our neighbors, South Sudan, DRC, Somalia, Burundi, Rwanda. And we are actually number 3 in Africa, the highest host of refugees. And all this comes with a lot of pressure and conflicts between the nationals and the refugees.
Indeed.
And yet, from a peace perspective, we are supposed to live in cohesion, support each other, and be able to move and thrive collectively. So in the year 2008, a national platform for peace building was put in place, led by the Office of the Prime Minister, and also had the key actors from the academia, other ministries, civil society, and the media. And the key task was to consult communities to be able to bring out what are the key issues, what are the key threads that they would like to see included in the peace policy. And this consultation engaged nationals all over the country.
Indeed.
And from this, a draft policy was in place in the year 2015 and handed over to the Office of the Prime Minister.
Until to date.
And since 2015, the platform became inactive. There was no response. There was nothing being spoken about what is happening to the draft peace policy that we all put in effort. We all had aspirations. We were all excited that this is a framework that is going to guide conflict-sensitive planning, response, and the mitigation.
And indeed, in your opinion, as the Deputy Executive Director for the Women's International Peace Center, what do you think this draft peace policy has stalled in the Prime Minister's office for the last 7 years, if you will?
I don't have a clear, but what I think is probably the priorities were many, and maybe this was not seen as a key priority for the Office of the Prime Minister. But maybe probably there was also transition of the officers who were taking leadership.
Yes.
So there wasn't maybe someone to run with it and push it over. But I believe it is still an issue that is important given the issues and the challenges that we continue to face to date.
Talk to us about what could have been done differently if the draft peace policy was already a law by 2015. Remember, we did have election-related violence in 2016. We also did have more issues taking center stage in the 2020 November campaigns. You do remember when NUP supporters were killed, around 54. That's according to the central government. Do you believe if we did have a law on peace building at the time would have averted those two most heinous scenarios that took center stage within this country?
One, the issues of conflict early warning and response will be a priority, and therefore if incidences, if something is anticipated, if communities see that something is going to happen and they report to the leadership, response would be immediate, would not be waiting to be reactive, and would be force. Taking a proactive approach to responding to conflicts in our communities and to dealing with pertinent issues that contribute to peace in our areas. Would also be having a human resource that is skilled and have a lens of conflict sensitivity, gender responsibility in the planning and programs that we design. Yeah. This way it would be easier to address issues before they happen. And if they happen, there's a mechanism that has been planned to respond to these issues. Then there would be able to have programs that are well coordinated, the results and achievements are realized, and the development perspectives in our communities would be thriving. Would have a community that is thriving, there would be social cohesion. Would also be able to have financing. Our budgeting across the different actors would be able to have a provision for early response to issues that happen in our different sectors. And I believe that as a community, it would become a culture that peace should be the first thing that we deal with. If there are conflicts in homes, if there are conflicts in families, in our culture setups, in our offices, things are addressed there and then. And we don't take a militarized approach, but we take a mediative approach to issues with respect that people are human beings and they need to be addressed and supported.
Well, of course, the draft peace policy calls for the creation of an institutional framework that would allow for the detection of some of the socio-cultural, economic, political injustices within the country that could culminate into potentially violent episodes. That's why the members of the civil society organizations are actually calling for the government to expeditiously pass the National Peace Building and that is a conflict transformation policy into law as soon as possible to avert many of these issues. But of course, this conversation is going to be largely focused on the Karamoja sub-region. Yes, the Karamoja sub-region has been neglected for a while now. That's what we are actually going to be discussing right here on this show. 900 people have died because of hunger. Cattle rustling has seen over 400 of the young people within those homesteads actually arrested. Imagine a young person being arrested and he is the breadwinner of that particular family. It's going to mean as he wallows or languishes within a jail system, the family back at home is going to be dying of hunger. Yet he could have done something. So is there another harmonized way we could have, employed to be able to handle the cattle rustling or insecurity situation within the Karamoja sub-region? Yes. Let me also bring in a member of parliament for Bokora East in the Napak district, and that is none other than Honorable Peter Lochap, to talk about the Karamoja situation. A very good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
Good morning, viewers.
What is happening within Karamoja? Bring us up to speed with the latest.
Yes, what is happening within Karamoja is that is true. People are dying of hunger. There is no food in the whole of Karamoja. And that happened because there was prolonged drought. There was crop failure in the whole sub-region. And these are people who defend, or the Karamojong, we the Karamojong defend on the rain provided by God. No irrigation system in the area, and yet the land is so fertile, it only needs water.
Indeed.
Where there's water, we can produce all we can. But because we lacked water, it is so embarrassing that people are dying in this part of the country, which is actually said to be the pearl, which is actually the pearl of Africa.
And the middle-income country at that.
Middle-income country. I am attributing all this just to negligence.
Negligence.
Negligence of some leaders who are actually empowered to provide information early to government. Look at the district. Every district has a district agricultural officer or a production officer, but of which these are the people who are supposed to give government, to make early warning system and send information early. But to me, I think this information doesn't reach. We only react just emotionally as things have happened. But we have, when we are supposed to have stopped this thing, this anger, these people dying over.
So you believe instead of waiting for these conflicts to befall any given jurisdiction within Uganda, we can come up with an early warning system that allows the non-state actors and non-state actors to actually put in place some modalities to ensure that the problem does not regress or become catastrophic?
Exactly, because for Karamoja, we have all been reading about Karamoja. In the colonial days, it was taken as a human zoo.
Yes.
Now, in the advent of the coming of the NRM government, Karamoja was among number 8, I think B, of the 10-point program. Up to today, we have taken so many years without seeing Karamoja come to the level of Karamoja. Of course, we don't deny that at least a lot has been done, but it's just only out of negligence by those who are entrusted to take care of these people in Karamoja.
Would you say that the Karamoja sub-region has been forgotten by the central government, Honorable Peter Lochap?
You know, I would not say it has been forgotten, but it has been neglected by those who are in authority, actually, by not giving central government the right information about anger. Because when you look at when you look at who are these people dying of anger, the people who are dying of anger are the elderly, the children, those who might be having problems with, actually who are sick,
yes,
TB, HIV/AIDS, and the elderly are actually in a way they have been abandoned because of, coupled with insecurity now. So the girls have run to the cities, to the neighboring district, to go and look for all the jobs on how to survive. So these elderly people have been left just unattended to. So there is a need really to have a policy in place so that the government is aware. Like for instance, this year, even next year, we are going to experience more starvation in Karamoja because there are no crops. There is total crop failure. As we talk now, we are talking of feeding them for 3 months, of which food has not even yet reached.
The government is saying it has sent 790 metric tons of posho and beans. Each of the 5 districts within the Karamoja sub-region shall receive 100 tons of posho and 50 tons of beans. Is it enough?
Yes, but that is not enough. Because when you talk of the population of about 1 to 3 million, that is almost, you will find that when you distribute that, when you calculate, you will find somebody is receiving 3 kilos for 3 months. How do you eat 3 kilos of posho for 3 months? 3
kilos for 3 months.
And how do you eat 2 kilos of beans for 3 months, sincerely? To say then it means if you want to survive for a week or for 5 days, you have to forego some other meals. You have either to eat supper, then the rest of the meals you don't. This is a situation which is reality on ground. We need really an holistic approach.
Honorable, we are also hearing that the people within the Karamoja sub-region are resorting to boiling hides and skins of cows to survive.
When you are angry, whatever is available, you start from that. It is true. It is happening. And we registered in a certain home where people went and got some other greens. And some 2 children one time died out of that. So you just, with hunger, it is almost like malaria. It attacks you like malaria. So whatever you see on ground, you end up eating. So it is actually not a livable situation. It is a real situation which is on ground. We are also not happy to government when this to some departments of government, actually not to government, some departments of government. When this thing happened in Karamoja, up to today, very few ministers have visited Karamoja.
They've left it to you, the MPs and the local government.
The MPs and the local government. It is only the president who came and visited. After the president, nobody has gone has actually visited. But when there was a calamity, of course, we all condemn that. What happened in Mbale? We saw people flying here and there. So when will Karamoja get such attention? Because if 40, even if 5 people have died, those souls mattered in this country. So it is not just a matter because 5 have died, you don't want to reach there. It should not be a livable situation in Karamoja.
900 is not a small number.
It is
it's
not.
A really, really big number. And not. 49 within your district. And you're saying some have not received food.
Yes,
but what have you done in your small capacity as the Member of Parliament?
Yes, in my small capacity as a Member of Parliament, or we as members of Parliament, we have appealed to NGOs, to some of our partners, development partners. And that's what is now happening. At least there are now partners who are helping.
Indeed.
Who are helping as we wait for what government promised. Because government promised 135 billion shilling, which we have not even received up to now.
Indeed.
And that was a directive pronouncement by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. By now we should have received. Where is that money?
If the draft peace policy were already a law in Uganda, what could have been different in this situation?
Yeah, if that draft policy was already a law in Uganda, then we would have curtailed certain issues from happening.
On the issue of hunger, how? Because they are watching and we're trying to sell this policy so that it's turned into law.
You know, anger, when somebody is angry, is already insecure. And there's no peace.
Hunger can lead to conflict.
Yes, it creates conflict. That's why you hear now there's cattle rustling.
Cattle rustling.
Cattle rustling is not there because it is supposed to be there. It is not supposed to be there. It's just because people are looking for how to survive. Then those who are strong are able to pick from others. They are in form of maybe animals, what and the rest, even grabbing the little which they find across themselves. So we need also a peace policy in place to guarantee our existence. It is just like I say, you know, in government, when you see government, even when there's peace, are you not seeing them buying war, bringing in war materials?
Indeed we are.
When there's peace. That's just in preparation, in case there's an outbreak.
The classified budget of the UPDF has grown
we always
exponentially.
Said, we've been passing giving classified budget. And we said, you know, so
and I was talking to some experts and they were saying the classified expenditure alone, if it was sent to Karamoja sub-region, it would alleviate all the problems within that area.
Yes, I really don't know that, but that is it. The peace policy should be in place.
So meaning we have misplaced priorities within this country?
To a certain extent. Because if people are dying.
Instead of throwing money into the UPDF or investing heavily within military structures, you would rather invest heavily in a peace policy that would actually bank on dialogue, which is a little bit cheaper.
Both. Because we should also be prepared. You should also be prepared. Yeah, both.
All right. That is Honorable Peter, yes, Lochapi is a Member of Parliament for Bokoro East. Please, finally.
I wanted also to say, would like to thank the UPDF and all its sister agencies, especially UPDF, police, and the intelligence, for the peace we are now starting to enjoy. I think there's a relative peace now in Karamoja than when we started.
But you're telling me we need more boots on the ground, because in areas where UPDF is present, there is lesser insecurity, but in areas where they are not visible, cattle rustling is pretty much.
Because the issue is also about porous borders. So there is need for them to deploy.
The Turkana coming through the Turkana and coming, as they wish.
Topasa, you know, there is no Karamoja who is manufacturing these guns. These guns are coming from outside, either from the Turkana or from the Toposa, or from the Somalis, who travel all the way through Kenya. And because of the porous borders, this Karamoja access, because it's all business, it's all about business. So we are actually grateful to to the UPDF for having at least reduced the cattle rustling and the killing which were actually happening, because there was terrible loss of life, loss of property, and now we can sleep. Because I am just from the constituency just yesterday when you were communicating to me about this show. So I was just traveling. So I left when the place was okay. So we are very grateful to the UPDA, but they need to double up their strength and then make sure that the forest borders are neat. The ASTU is doing a tremendous job there in Karamoja. So we need also more ASTUs to be deployed. As you deploy the UPDF to guard the international borders, the police should be able now they should be able actually to clean inside. Because I think that's why I understand that they belong to internal affairs. So that's their role, to make sure that we are living internally peacefully.
Honorable Peter Lochapi is a member of parliament for Bokora East in Napak district. Remember, we're talking about the Karamoja region. It's not a district. That is another fact. Karamoja is not a district. It is a sub-region made up of five districts in that regard. You do have Kotido, Kabong, you do have Moroto, you have Napak, and Amudet in that regard. Those are the 5 districts that make up the Karamoja sub-region. So,
in fact, it's supposed to be a region.
Yeah.
Because now when you talk of Karamoja, when it comes to security officers,
Yes.
you have the division commander, the regional police commander. Why do you give us all the security regional officers instead of declaring the region to be a regional
so the biggest part of this conversation is that if we had a draft or a peace policy in law already, we would have been able to avert all these situations. The UPDF wouldn't have to use violence at all. Remember the Rwenzururu standoff? We would have had these peace mediators actually coming through to iron out the situations that were leading to that catastrophe between the Rwenzururu king, Charles Wesley Mumbere, who is still in jail. All right, and his subjects. Yes, we would also be able to avert many of the situations that befell the nation in November of 2020 when Robert Chagulanyi was in Luka on a campaign trail. 54 people were killed in various jurisdictions within the country. So if you have a peace policy as a law, you wouldn't have to use force at all. You'd have mediators like Juliet Were, like Stefania Dupa, like Jessica Atta Ruth, actually go within these hotspots and actually talking to the people right there. In the case of the Karamoja sub-region, we would go to those places where cattle rustling is rife. Talk to those young people, talk to the warriors. What are their problems? What are the alternatives that we can give them? If you surrender your gun, can we give you maybe a development program to engage in so that you do not actually fall back into your bad ways, or so that you do not recidivate. That is the correct word to use in this case. Recidivations would be done away with as long as cattle rustling is concerned within the Karamoja sub-region. On the issue of hunger, we would have an institutional framework that would allow funds to actually pour into the Karamoja sub-region without government saying, you know what, we do not have money, so we only have 790 metric tons of posho and beans, which is actually a drop in the ocean when it comes to hunger-related issues within the Karamoja sub-region that have claimed 900 lives, 600 in Kotido alone. That is how serious the situation is. We'd also like to talk about the issues of cultural injustices, gender-based violence, the fact that the cultures of certain societies are actually violating the rights of other individuals in that regard. So, but if we had a peace policy, what would happen differently? That's why we do have the Assistant Commissioner for the Assistant Commissioner, that is Florence Chirabira. She is the National Coordinator, Early Conflict Warning and Early Response Unit in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. A very good morning once again, Assistant Commissioner Florence Chirabira. On this subject, what can you tell us? Gender.
Thank you for hosting us on this important topic. It's not a new one. It has been a concern to everybody. Because when we talk about peace building, this is a common good that everybody would like to have around and enjoy. And we know well that without peace, there is no, you can talk about development. Because peace gives way for development to take place. So, like you've heard, the coordinator of conflict and warning and our response, their unit based at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You heard from the Deputy Executive Director, Madam Juliet, the process way back from the Great Lakes region, the decisions and the resolutions that came up. And then also there have been a number of processes even at IGAD level. Yeah, Uganda being a member of the IGAD, yeah, it's a member state under IGAD, signed protocols in 2000 in Khartoum. You can imagine that is the same period when the meetings across the Great Lakes region were also ongoing, all talking about peace and security issues in the region. Our region is known for, it has been a fragile region, and there was that urgent call for stability in this region. And of course, the region itself, as you look at it, the IGAD, is all the characteristics of the member states are all the same. At the time, they shared common characteristics of poverty, insecurity, and development. And that being, the heads of states came together and deliberated a lot on how to deal with these issues, the challenges, in order to usher in development.
Indeed.
And the decision thereafter came whereby they said that for us to be able to usher in development, then we need to deal with the insecurity issues, related issues in the IGAD region. And that's the reason why they started so much with the security-related issues and how to gather information on these commonalities of issues within the region. And this particular program mandates member states to carry out information collection, analysis, and sharing on pending conflicts or on escalating conflicts in the region. And it all does, the main function is either to prevent conflicts from taking place or mitigate
those that have already happened.
Yeah, true. And the reason why Uganda came back, and all member states that signed the C1 protocol, that is conflict early warning and early response mechanism, which is it's under the peace and security architecture of the African Union, came down and required that all member states put up a coordination point. And for Ugandan case, our coordination point is within the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Because looking at the mandate of the ministry, as the ministry in charge of internal peace and security, this is where they felt fitted better. And this unit is to coordinate information collection, analysis, and sharing across on pending conflicts. So for us to be able to do that, actually we started our project, tested in Karamoja. Karamoja was our pilot base where most of the interventions were directed. And Honorable Peter Richap, I know we engaged him on several times, because he has been among the historical players in that region. And we established structures in place. We have the national structure, which brings on board the members from the different ministries and agencies, and also non-state actors. We don't only operate as government entities.
Even CSO.
Yeah, it brings on board civil society organizations, government partners, academicians, and then, of course, religious leaders. And these structures have to be felt through to the grassroots level. So at the national level, we have the secretariat where we sit in, and occasionally we have the steering committee structure that comes on board on a quarterly basis to deliberate and discuss issues of peace and security nature, and also devise, make recommendations to the policy and decision makers. And then going down, we also had to go to the district levels and established district peace committee structures, which committee structures also bring on board different players. And at the time, they found it fit the structures to be chaired by the RDCs, because these are the chairpersons of the district security committee. So as they are discussing issues of security in the districts, then issues of early warning also need to be brought on board. And early warning, of course, cuts across all institutions, be it agriculture, be it health, be it education. Yeah, and the intention is just to prevent and minimize damage. So these structures actually functioned well from the beginning, and we even went up to the sub-county levels in the first 5 districts you mentioned.
Indeed.
Before we had more on board. In that time, we had field monitors in every district who would monitor and then communicate the situation. And then, of course, we trained district peace committee members. These district committee members also bring on board different people from different backgrounds, including community members. And women were always considered to be on board. The youth, who are the key actors, have to be on board. The religious leaders, the elderly, the choral leaders, in the context of Karamoja, are on board. And these structures worked so well and fitted in well. Actually, this program fitted in well during the first disarmament process. Because there was a lot of information sharing on pending raids, and most of the raids were minimized. Even the recovery of guns were done, because we would get information that in that Manyata, you see, depending on the east side, the number of guns equally are many. And that's how UPDF was able to recover quite a lot of number, guns. And actually, thereafter, we realized the peace in Karamoja, relative peace that even ushered in the infrastructure development that you see up to today. But of course, as time, this mechanism at the time was being supported by partners heavily.
Yes, Flores, go ahead.
Heavily, IGAD came in with the resources, technical and financial. But time came when this program is to be domesticated.
Indeed.
And how do you do the domestication? So for us, this peace policy development was a moment for us to actually take on, because it is a policy that will actually define us better and even bring on board players and even resources. Yeah. So this peace policy, for sure, at the time, we actually thank Office of the Prime Minister for the enormous effort and the members of the platform. It's a very good policy. When you go through it, it's all
Ms. Shiragura, why are you thanking the Prime Minister? I mean, this policy, this policy has been stuck within the Prime Minister's office for the last 7 years, meaning the Prime Minister is suffocating our ambitions to have this policy, put into law.
Yeah.
Why are we thanking the person fighting this?
I have to thank them because they started off well the process. We have a draft in place, a draft which we are currently actually working with and interrogating.
Indeed.
And we need this draft to be even further enhanced and enriched, because you can imagine there has been a long time since 2015 to date. Quite a lot have emerged and need to be filtered into the national policy.
Indeed.
And we are, well that now we are into NDP3.
Indeed.
Yeah, we need also to ensure that all the chapters in NDP3 are filtered through this peace policy.
And the National Action Plan 3.
Yes, for us to be able to work well, effectively, in a coordinated manner, and avoid the ad hoc way of doing things.
And indeed, in the absence of this draft peace policy, you have been having a similar kind of docket within the Internal Affairs Ministry as the National Coordinator of Conflict Early Warning and Early Response Unit. So what are some of those conflicts you've been monitoring? What are some of those situations you've been monitoring and you are worried that they could culminate into bigger catastrophes within this country? And how have you responded in the absence of the draft peace policy?
Yeah, the conflicts, of course, way back in Karamoja were pastor related.
Right now, what your office is focusing on?
Yeah, but right now, because of the emerging conflicts, even in Karamoja, they are experiencing land-related conflicts.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a lot of it. There are environmental issues facing Karamoja.
Indeed.
And, natural resources, which is widely spread all over the country, not only limited to Karamoja. And how we monitor these conflicts, because we have field monitors who are actually operating on a voluntary basis.
I see.
Yeah. And we depend on them for information. And it's communicated to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, we have a tool. It's a web-based tool that was designed by our partners
I see.
for capturing information. But as this information comes in, it's supposed to be analyzed further. And after analysis is when you share it across, because response is at different levels. If it is conflict to do with the land, then the line ministry is there. And we have a member from Ministry of Land who is a member of the National Steering Committee.
Indeed.
If it is health related, like outbreak of diseases, Minister of Health should be able to respond. And that's how we do response through other existing structures.
What challenges have you encountered in that process?
Oh, the challenges are enormous. First and foremost, we are operating without a clear legal framework.
Nice.
Because we are not well defined to the level that we can meet the requirements of the mandate.
So you need a peace policy.
A peace policy. And then also in terms of funding, as it was mentioned by the Deputy Executive Director, we are not operating well with the minimum funding requirements. We need at least a sustainable budget line.
Yeah.
And financed by government. Because in most cases we've been depending on partnership and goodwill. Like we now work with Women International Peace Center, we work with WARNET. Those are our partners. Sometimes when we are handicapped, they invite us and cause meetings. And from there we are able to engage. But government needs to take the front leg of peace building initiatives and just bring on board the other partners to work with. So those are the main challenges in terms of resources, even capacity. We cannot continue building capacities of the actors in a way where we are not well equipped.
Indeed.
Yeah, because peace building and conflict transformation is a skill that has to be built over time. And there are quite a number of stakeholders to engage: the youth, the women, even the children.
Indeed.
Because these are things that have to be introduced early enough in their child life and lifetime, so that they grow up with that culture of peace, culture of tolerance, and coexistence.
All right, that is the Assistant Commissioner, Florence Chiravira. She is the National Coordinator, Early Conflict Warning and Early Response Unit that is in the Internal Affairs Ministry. We are talking about the Peace Building and Conflict Transformation Policy, in short, the draft peace policy, and what it would have done differently if it were a law within this country or a policy that had already been passed by the central government in that regard. Many of these non-state actors are calling for the policy to be taken to the ministerial level so that it could be expeditiously passed in that regard. We are talking about the connection between this draft peace policy and many of the conflicts that have arisen so far. We're talking about socio-political, election-related conflicts. We are talking about climate change. When you see the drought spells in Karamoja, that is climate change. Many other areas within the country are also grappling with climate change. So all this, if we had a peace policy, what would it have done differently to help these people who are grappling with, you know, some people are grappling with a triple threat: climate change, you have now insecurity, cattle rustling, and so forth. And all those issues would have been ironed out if we had a peace policy. If you look at the Karamoja region, 2,000 of their children are malnourished as we speak. 900 have already died. Young ones, old ones, and women in that regard have died within this region. The issue of cattle rustling and so forth, we would like to make sense of all this in light of the recommendations to have the peace policy expeditiously passed into law. Let me also bring in my panelists who are online. We do have the peace mediator from Moroto, that is Stephanie Adupa. She won't be alone. We shall also talk to Jessica Ruth Atta. She is a peace mediator hailing from Kotido. Do not forget, over 600 people have died within Kotido alone. Out of the 900 people who died, 600 were in that small area of Kotido. So that is very, very appalling news coming in from that jurisdiction. All right, Stephanie Adupa, very good morning once again. How are you doing right now? And bring us up to speed with the situation that is taking center stage within Moroto district. Stephanie?
Thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Good morning. Hello.
You can speak to us. We can hear you loud and clear. Stephanie Adupa, she is a peace mediator hailing from Moroto district. We'd like to know what are some of the efforts they've put into play to ensure that the people are, saved from the hunger-related issues that have struck this area. Issues to do with cattle rustling and disarmament. We'd also like to know what is happening within the Moroto region. Remember, there was also a jail breakout within this region. We did have prisoners who escaped from a prison within Moroto. Others are still largely, within the coffers of the public. So we would like to know what are the implications of that on the communities within Moroto, and how differently would the peace policy have played out in this regard. Stephanie Adupa, we still want to get your opinion on that. Are you still with us?
Yes, good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning.
once again for inviting us for this great show. Once again, my name is Stephanie Adupa from Moroto. Looking at the situation in Karamoja at the moment, there are a lot of issues which are on the ground. First of all, I want to talk about food insecurity within the region. Looking at the prolonged drought within the region of Karamoja, people were not able actually to get food for the last 3 years, and looking at the situation and also insecurity, cattle raid within the region, people had migrated earlier to this green belt within all districts of Karamoja, but because of insecurity, people could not again stay in those areas. Most people abandoned these areas. Most of the people are running back to towns, and now all this, it has created really a lot of issues within people, especially looking at women and children, elderly women and elderly people begging along all the streets of this district, looking at Kotido also, the same Moroto, go to Napak, most of the district in Karamoja. And also looking at families, most of the families have decided to leave their homes, going to town or going to other districts like Teso region, looking for food for survival. And also looking at the same situation, there are a lot of hunger within the region. Most of us, we have heard what is taking place in Karamoja. We have lost a lot of people. People have died of hunger within the region. We have lost both men, women, children, and youth because of hunger. And also looking at our people who are suffering from HIV, TB. Now, of course, even though you have your medicine, you can't take this medicine with an empty stomach, which is very bad on our side. But also we have something which is paining us, the Karamojong. It's like Uganda as a country, Karamoja is not part of this country. That is my personal opinion. Because looking at all these issues within Karamoja, there is the food which we always get, but it's not enough for these communities. Like if they say 25 people within maybe a parish, that is not the whole number. And now if someone in most situation, someone getting a half a kilo of pocho, maybe a half a kilo of beans, can it even really feed these families for how many days? Not even enough for one day. That's why our people are calling it lokipurupur in our local language. It means it's not enough, and it is not even everybody is entitled to, which is a bit challenging. I still refer to the situation which happened in Mbale of recent, and I saw very many people within these countries, including the prime minister for this country, running to Mbale. Since we are not part of this country, it pains us a lot. Then also looking at our own representative at the ministry, like ministers for Karamoja. These are the very people who are rejecting that hunger is not in Karamoja. And yet even some of them were on the ground, they have witnessed what is taking place. People are dying. Then at the end of the day, you are telling us the Karimojong, they are trying to extricate things. Is it really ethical for a normal human being? So for us, we are looking at it, I don't know. I think maybe God is soon coming to rescue Karamoja. Looking also on the same situation, insecurity in Karamoja. Insecurity in Karamoja has become a permanent issue for the Karimojong. And if this issue in Karamoja becomes a national issue for this country, then I'm sure this situation can be solved. Because I can give an example. What happened in Massacre in the beginning of this year? But when the government put attention, are people of Massacre still dying? Why are the people of Karamoja dying daily when the government can be able to support us? I appreciate the work of the UPDF also in taking this security at hand. Although there are also few, they can't run the whole region. There are few even in the region. You will find that some sub-counties, they don't have. Now imagine if a force from Rupa is going to rescue the people in Tapas, how long will those people take to reach there? And to me, I can also, they're also a human being. Imagine they're walking 50 kilometers to rescue another community. They're walking 30 kilometers. Look at Kotido. If they are calling security from Kotido to go and rescue people from Kabong, look at Panyangara Sabu County and also Nakapeli Moru. All those are long distance. All these are our own children. But for the effort they are doing, I appreciate the work they are doing together with the police within the region, although the personnel is not enough really for the region. And also looking at all these, when we look, all this it has caused a lot of domestic violence within the homes, within the families, because people who are always also who are home providers, looking at women in Karamoja, a home in Karamoja, in most cases, it is a woman to provide the food. Now, Karamoja did not get any food for the last 3 years. There is a lot of challenges. And looking at Karamoja also, Karamoja is a source of revenue for this country. What are really the benefits for Karimojong? Looking at the national resources, the whole of Karamoja,
a peace mediator from Moroto district. Thank you so much for your humble submission. Stephanie Adupashi is a peace mediator from Moroto district. She was very, very emotional in her submission, and I wouldn't blame her one bit. There is this rife situation on the ground within the Karamoja sub-region. We are talking about Kotido, Kabong, Amudat, Moroto, and Napak. Our next peace mediator is hailing from the jurisdiction of Kotido. In Kotido, 600 people plus 600 people and counting have succumbed to hunger-related diseases within this area. She's going to bring us up to speed with the latest machinations taking center stage on this subject. Yes, hi there, Jessica Atta Ruth, peace mediator from Kotido. How are you doing this beautiful morning? Bring us up to speed with what is happening within your region, especially on hunger, cattle rustling, disarmament, and so forth, child trafficking, gender-related issues, domestic violence, if you will. Please bring us up to speed. Jessica.
Okay, thank you so much. Once more, I'm Jessica Ruth Atta, peace mediator from Kotido. I want to start with straight away with the cattle raiding and its impact on the well-being of the Karamojong. Initially, the raids were basically for wealth accumulation and restocking, including marriage. The trend of the raiding has changed and it's commercialized in that animals are stolen and sold and slaughtered for sale in black markets. In Kotido district and many, maybe other parts of Karamoja as well, the petty internal theft has remained a big challenge to the region in that thieves steal from nearby sub-counties and villages and take animals to other households' properties. Actually, when you look at the local, or when we started, when the raid started, it was like the raid would start from B and it goes to A. When you follow, you'll get the animals there. But these days, it has changed, it is commercialized. You find that when you follow the footmarks, it disappears in the middle before you reach B. So it's something that is making our people emotional, and all the animals are getting finished. Issues on, I want to touch on displacement, child trafficking. Due to insecurity, families have been displaced from the farmlands and also villages, especially the peace actors and the security intelligence personnel called the PISOs, GISOs. Being peace builders, many have been moved to neighboring districts. And these are the very people who have turned to become perpetrators. And yet when you look at the PISOs and the GISOs, those are a harm of government, but they look at it like they're insecure to they are insecure to the community. Access farmland, insecurity in the region has hindered the farmers from accessing the greener belts like Lobanya and many other where farmers have failed to grow food to support looming hunger in the district. Linkage to cross-border. The porous border in the region has led to the persistence of insecurity in the region because there are no controls entry and exit along borderlines by the Ugandan government to check what enters the neighboring districts in Uganda along the borderlines. Therefore, the Ugandan warriors freely moved to South Sudan and Kenya to trade in guns with the Toposa of South Sudan and Turkana of Kenya. However, to prevent the proliferation of the guns through the borders, government needs to protect the porous border by establishment of security posts and the borderlines for controls of entry of guns and criminals. Disarmament processes and its impact on women and children. The disarmament process is in the region has less involvement of peace actors such as youth, women, religious leaders, political leaders, among others. The impact of processes is very numerous in that many women have spouses in exercise, children have been displaced, and many have run to the street. Food insecurity in the families due to loss of family, labor to killings, hence low food production, loss of the family's assets like animals and food in the granaries, increase of widows. This one has been silent in the community. You find a man marries a woman. After marrying, when he goes for raid, he's killed. You are inherited with the next man, he goes for raid, he's killed. You are inherited more than 5 times. When you look at this, many of the orphans have increased. Human rights abuses like rape during cordon and search exercise. This is due to indiscrimination arrest of people during the exercise. Food insecurity and famine. The complex crisis in the region is both natural and man-triggered disaster that have led to the famine crisis in the region. However, due to insecurity and district, many families abandon farmlands that have intensified the food crisis in the region because of farmers couldn't access farmers in the previous years, hence famine. The nature of current complex crisis that Karamoja as a region is facing in both natural and human-related disaster that have caused vulnerability to the majority population in the region. In recent decades, the nature of insecurity has fundamentally changed from an era of intertribal raids between the ethnic groups to one that is characterized by complex political emergencies technology motivated, commercialized. While there is a sense in which every disaster is complex, contemporary complex crises are messes. That is to say that while at their core, they are crises of insecurity, they are often not specific problems which identified causes that can be fully understood and for which solution can be generated. Relatively, linear model of development progress interrupted by shock followed by recoveries simply cannot be applied to them. In the health sector, hunger has incapacitated the clients to adhere to the treatment because some treatment can't be taken in empty stomach. Therefore, they choose not to take drugs due to lack of food. Example, many art clients from Cotido General Hospital have dropped out. Many more are not surprising due to inconsistency of drug intake. Not only that, many children in the General Hospital under therapeutic treatment have also failed to respond to treatment because attendants due to starvation leave the patient in hospital unattended to go and look for casual labor to get 2,000 to buy what to eat while attending to malnourished children. I want to talk about the current response to Karamoja peace and security issues at national and local level. At local level, community sensitization on peace and security has also been done. Intra and inter-community dialogues, religious initiative of prayers, integration of peace initiatives in the government and CSO programs, voluntary returning of guns, religious youth initiative to engage in the income generating activities, mobilization of community to take children of the school going age to school, organization of farmer groups, organization of youth for sports for peace activities, established communal protected corral. At national level, disarmament program has been done and it's ongoing, supported with community empowerment programs, supported the local leaders with transport means for mobilization, awareness creation on peace and security. What is still needed on this? We need approval of the national peace policy by Parliament to guide the disarmament and peace building exercise. Develop the cross-border peace policy on gun possession that's along the border of South Sudan and Kenya. Introduction of compulsory education for all in the region of Karamoja. The positive disarmament process. The positive element is reduced. There is reduced killing of people currently in Karamoja. There's guns recovery. The guns are being recovered currently, and those are some of the achievements. Some of the gaps
that is Jessica Ruth, a peace mediator working with the Cotido Women Peace Mediator Network. We are talking about the national peace policy that has been gathering dust in the Prime Minister's office at least since 2015 when it made its way into that office. We do not have any kind words for the Prime Minister's office because of how significant the peace policy is to the development of this country. Of course, the overall objective of the national peace policy is to establish a national architecture on peace building that will guide the state actors and the non-state actors in actually coming up with timely and appropriate responses in conflicts arising from socio-political, economic, cultural injustices within this country. This is a conversation we shall continue with shortly after these messages. Don't move a muscle.
Want a kick-ass game? Have a good night's sleep.
Get brand new Always Dreams with a wider bag and lead guard channels that lock liquid no matter how you move.
A good night's rest, a kick-ass game.
The Saturday Monitor, in partnership with NTV and Narrow, brings you a special edition of the Seeds of Gold Farm Clinics in Namlonge, Nachesasa, focusing on cattle and goats. Come and experience a 360 learning on animal health, nutrition, breeding, foliage production, and disease management on Saturday, September the 10th, 2022, starting at 7 a.m. For exhibition or more information, please call 0777 530 044 or 0756 849 133. Sponsored by Chinese Embassy, Bank of Uganda, Stanbic Bank, NSSF, and Zoetis. Seeds of Gold, smarter farming for bumper harvest.
One experts enjoy true feelings, a flood of emotions, a rush of adrenaline, the taste of victory. Are you ready?
OneXBet operates under Advanced Gaming Limited and is licensed and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board. Betting is addictive and can be psychologically harmful, and it is eligible to persons above 25 years of age.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
Welcome back. Glad you didn't move a muscle. You're still watching NTV Uganda. Romeo Busiku is your host. I couldn't be more privileged to be in your midst. We are talking about the National Peace Policy, which is still in draft form. And many of the peace and conflict resolution experts are saying, wait, we need to have passed this law as soon as yesterday. But it has been gathering dust in the Prime Minister's office at least since 2015. That is close to 7 years. And it's been in the works for close to 22 whooping years. That's what we are talking about. So what exactly is the draft peace policy? Well, the overall objective of this national peace policy is to establish a national architecture, an institutional framework that is national, that will guide both the state and non-state peace actors in coming up with timely and appropriate responses to conflicts that are arising from socio-economic, cultural and economic disputes within the country. So on the issue of gender, how best can we inculcate gender within the machinations of the peace policy? Let me talk to Juliet Were, the Deputy Executive Director for the Women International Peace Center, on the subject of gender-based violence taking center stage within this country without a peace policy in place. All right, Juliet Were, let's talk about mainstreaming gender into the machinations of the peace policy. How can we do that?
We have to be cognizant that we have different actors We have women, we have men, we have youth, we have the elderly. So in the peace policy and in its implementation modalities, we look at issues of what role can these actors play. So we look at what can women do, what can the youth do, what can the elderly do in providing early warning information, in providing response, in mediating.
Indeed.
So in the policy and in the implementation modalities, we have to make sure that all these layers of people are involved, that their active contribution to conflict resolution is recognized at planning, at response, at mitigation. We also need to look at building capacities in terms of training to ensure that the actors involved have the required skills, are confident, and are able to articulate the issues. But when it comes to issues of gender-based discrimination, especially gender-based violence, we need to ensure that the response mechanisms, the legal system, provides urgent action to sexual and gender-based violence, and that the survivors and victims are not penalized, are not blamed for what is happening. We also call for the fact that when we are budgeting, we follow gender-sensitive budgeting that will make sure that if we are planning for agriculture, how much is going to families, how much is going to education, how much is going to the health facilities, so that the members of the community, the women, men, youth, elderly, are able to access and utilize the facilities that are in place.
Indeed, Ms.
So gender mainstreaming has to be taken through a proactive approach and ensure that it is implemented, not that it is just put in the policy, that it's just in the plan, in the budget, but practically, how is it rolling out?
And the viewer who is watching this show right now would like to know how socio and cultural injustices are actually exacerbating the issue of gender-based violence, especially within the Karamoja sub-region.
In Karamoja, traditionally, women were supposed to remain in the household. They take care of the home, they build the houses, they nurture the children. Then the men go out. The older men and the young boys go out to take care of the cattle. And in a way, this social construct has continued over time. So the men would go out looking after cattle. Over time, they started acquiring guns. And now with technology, the acquisition has become even sophisticated because you are able to use a mobile phone and be able to get the arms that you want to use and exchange. So the biggest challenge is when it comes to the female gender, the women cannot go to school, they are not engaged in productive work, they cannot articulate, they are not allowed to effectively participate even in decision making, even in the home. They are supposed to stay behind the kitchen when the elders are meeting and discussing pertinent issues of resolving conflict in their community. Women are not allowed to be a part of
They are not on the table at all.
Central process. And yet they have information, they have ideas, they have skills and ways they know can work to bring peace in Karamoja. So the social construct of Karamoja, which is patriarchal, just as in any other place, only that in Karamoja it is deeply entrenched. And because nationally Karamoja has also not been received that desired attention, the construct continues becoming deeper.
Indeed.
And the violations, the discrimination is highly felt and seen.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really a bad situation within the Karamoja sub-region. I told you that they are grappling with a lot, insecurity as a result of cattle rustling. There's the issue of gender-based violence that is also taking root within this area. Well, the disarmament process has bore fruit, but then we are hearing that these individuals have to be given options. If you're taking away my gun, what are the other options within the development programs of the government that I could engage in and actually do away with cattle rustling? But what we are dealing with are recidivations. Many of the former cattle rustlers are actually going back into the same trade. Honorable Peter Luchap, let's talk about the issue of gender-based violence within Napak district, within Bokora East. How rife is the situation within your jurisdiction that you're running?
Yeah, thank you very much. The issues to do with the gender-based violence within Napak, within my constituency, Karamoja as large, revolve actually around the resources. First of all, you know, in a Karamoja setting, it's the man who owns each and everything. The man owns cows, goats, whatever is available. And at times, a conflict can erupt when maybe a woman asks for part of what is already there to be used, maybe for family use and the rest. And that's why you always see that when there's anger, there are more conflicts in Karamoja. It is just struggling for resources which are
when
limited.
People try to look for other options to survive.
Other options for survival.
Like child trafficking. Many of the young girls in the region
many
are
of the
sent
young
to
girls,
Kampala
many of the young girls leave home when the father doesn't know. You know, the girls normally associate with the mother. It is the mother who determines where this girl should go, while the boys associate with the father. It is the father who determines which boy should go and graze today the animals, which one should go and water the animals, and which one should go and oversee if there's an enemy or if there are enemies trying to do this and that.
Yes.
So the money economy has also brought to these issues of violence in the Karamoja or in Napak, because people drink a lot. In most cases, there's a lot of alcohol, which people will take and forget their roles, both of a man and a woman.
And the money they use to buy that alcohol is from the sweat of the woman. After having tilled the gardens, she goes, sells the proceeds, but the man is the one to do what? Enjoy the proceeds of the money.
Yes, it is somehow, but in the
Isn't that leading to hunger?
It of course is leading to hunger.
Goes to the garden and then the man sells for alcohol.
Exactly. Not actually to the garden, because as we are talking now, we cannot talk of the garden because there's nothing to harvest.
Everything
there.
is cold.
Maybe she goes there to burn charcoal, then sell the charcoal, and then later, when it comes to the sharing, it is not observed by a man very well.
It is 9–10%.
Exactly.
I see.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So the violence is there, but we would like to thank the security, especially the police, because in most cases they are the ones who come very fast and intervene whenever there is a issue of that kind. Because in every district, in an area, there is a police officer in charge of child and family protection. So that's why I'm saying we have to thank that arm of the police for doing a lot to mitigate about this violence which has been actually going on.
Of course, you did talk about the socio-construct where the young people go to the fields to graze cattle and the young women stay at home to do the chores. So on the part of the young men, many have fallen prey to the operations of the UPDF. Many have been arrested since May 16th when we launched an operation as a country, and they have been arrested. Don't you think this is one of the reasons why we are dealing with hunger within this region?
Yes,
in that the young people who are the breadwinners are plucked from their communities and thrown into jail. Now the people they were taking care of are left to die of hunger.
I would like us also to be very clear on that. Not every young man is being arrested by this security officer.
Not every young man. I'm saying 400 have so far been arrested.
Yeah,
so these young men held from families where they were breadwinners.
I don't have numbers, if they are there, if they are about 400.
We have the numbers.
Some of them, you know, the operation which is taking place now in Karamoja is intelligence-led. And the people who are disturbing, who are doing this business of cattle rustling are young men. So once the intelligence says it is in such and such a home, there are so many who went for a raid because they don't go alone.
Yes.
They go on there 10, 20.
Indeed.
So they are being, of course, they are rounded. They make, of course, a bundle of the 400 you are telling us. So in the actual sense, it is actually the young boys who go to raid. Elders don't go and raid. It is the youth. So that is my prayer that in the future we should target what can occupy this youth.
Indeed.
How are we going to help them?
Instead of throwing
so that
them
they
into
become
jail.
productive and we discourage them, they lose appetite.
Do you
as far
agree
as
that
the raid
arresting
is
them
concerned.
is not a solution? It does more harm
It
than
is
good?
not. It's not a solution. Arresting these young men is not a solution because you can arrest them and release. Because there were those who were arrested some time back. When they were released, they had nothing to eat at home. They went back and they continued. So arresting them is not a solution. We should find something to occupy them. And as you know, Karamoja is very rich. I say we are the richest in terms of NGOs. There are very many, but almost duplicating work. So if we would say NGO 1 or A should handle this, it will help.
Of course, the viewer is watching this conversation. We are entering 1.5 hours, of course, and we've been trumpeting the work of the NGOs left, right, and center. Now the viewer is wondering, where is Parliament on all this? It is Parliament that is supposed to be passing the draft peace policy. What is their role in all this? And in fact, the members of Parliament from the Karamoja sub-region, what have you done in your dockets to ensure that you alleviate the challenges that have befallen the Karamoja sub-region and avoid future recurrences?
Yes, we have actually sat as members of Parliament from Karamoja sub-region. We have even met with some of these NGOs, and we have directed them on what they should do to help these young people get discouraged from the cattle, from this business of cattle rustling. But now, these are human beings. If they don't want to listen, because you find them saying, you know, this money we have also got from our donors. It's supposed to do ABCD, so it's supposed to do mind change, mind, that kind of thing. How do you change my mind when I'm angry? You change to what? So we need also to agree with them really on what we should do on ground. They should not come and dictate what they want to do. A person must be asked, what does this community want? They should not come and say, you take warak when I don't want to take warak.
Have this whole when I want to do something else. I see.
Exactly.
So indulge members of the public, talk to them on what they need to abandon their practices.
Then they tell her, and if you think you want to, you don't agree with what they are saying, then you are able to educate them and say, can we go this side? This is how we want this man to be used. Let something be understood than really being forced. You know, this is how the Karamoja went wild during the colonial days. Because during the colonial days, they say, when you get 3 or 2 Karamoja seated together, arrest. And if they run away, you shoot at them. So that's how the situation actually went, actually got out of hand. So you see now, when you see this when Amin was overthrown, the Alhambra was left to this young pen. They went on shaking, what and the rest, and that was the beginning of chaos. The beginning of chaos. So we need to educate them on what they should do. We need to discourage them not to have an appetite of a gun, because a gun does each and every, that's actually bad things.
So is that all that you've done as MPs of the Karamoja sub-region? You've spoken to the young people and they're not listening?
We have spoken to the young people and we continue to speak. Even tomorrow we're having a meeting with the partners to forge a way on how should this fall be. Somebody has been disarmed. It is not enough to give you 20 iron sheets. So you should give something which this person can continue generating to earn a living. You see the point.
And you also believe if you had a peace policy, a national peace policy, you wouldn't be doing it alone? It would involve all stakeholders within the country.
Actually, I am very positive on that. Even if it was to come before the Parliament, I will be among those actually to say this policy should be passed, because it will favor some of us, especially the cattle keepers.
Of course, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, is largely watching this conversation, and she's taken note of that.
Yes.
And the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Thomas Taiyewa, and we might be seeing a reaction from the two of the members of Parliament within that August House very, very soon. Of course, that is Honourable Peter Lochap. He is a member of Parliament, Bokora East in the Napak District. 49 people within his area also for succumbed as a result of starvation. That is how rife the situation is within the Karamoja sub-region. We also do have the Assistant Commissioner, Florence Chirabira. She is the National Coordinator, Conflict Early Warning and Early Response Unit in the Internal Affairs Ministry. Florence, we would like to know, especially the viewer, what role can this Conflict Early Warning and Response Unit play in gathering relevant early warning data and actually coming up with or facilitating responses to the same crises to avert future catastrophes? What role can this unit play?
Of course, the unit where I am, under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, is the coordination office for this mechanism, and that is how government chose. They looked at the ministry as very relevant in handling issues of early warning based on the mandate the ministry plays. Other member states in the region could have chosen elsewhere, foreign affairs, wherever, but for us as a ministry, as Uganda, we chose Ministry of Internal Affairs. And therefore, being the coordinator of all of this mechanism, then I feel we are the people who would be charged with the development of this peace policy. Yeah. How it went to Office of the Prime Minister, I think it was many years ago, before even I went to the ministry, before even this program came in.
Yes.
But I think there was, some kind of mix-up. Because Office of the Prime Minister mainly handles issues of disaster. And I think there could have been that mix-up with issues of disaster and issues of peace building. And yet forgetting disaster, okay, these are issues that come as and when.
Is Nhanga part of the disasters? Who would like to talk about? Is Nhanga part of the disasters?
It is, but if anything, disaster is part of peace building process.
Indeed.
Because peace building is a long process that takes care of all these disaster risk, climate change, all issues, name them. So that mix-up could have driven this policy to where it is now. And I believe it's the reason why it is stuck there. Because if it was very relevant, the Office of the Prime Minister wouldn't have left it to stay all this long. And
it is really, really relevant. Maybe they thought if they passed it into law, they will be shooting themselves in the legs. Imagine what happened within the, in 2016, the attack on the Rwenzururu Palace. If you had a third party, I'm sure they didn't want that to happen. Peace mediators, they really wanted as members of security to handle that with the alleged perpetrators in that regard. 2020, there were no protests. The government wouldn't have allowed a peace mediator. The church offered to actually mediate on some of the political issues that were in this country. The government still refused. So indeed, was it actually done, you know?
But where we are now, we need mediation. And the reason why African Union is even promoting that mediation unit, because they have tested enough conflicts and the wars or conflicts within this region have overstretched the continent, and they are not coming to getting permanent solutions to issues of the continent. So mediation is the only way to go, and that's the reason why they are promoting mediation, negotiation in all member states to be an alternate to the hard means of dealing with
use of violence, the reactive means.
Exactly. And it's not only the mandate of those in the state to promote peace. Peace is all encompassing. So if you have to bring the others on board, the religious leaders, the civil society partners, the elders, then there is no way you can do away with the mediation.
How are you monitoring child trafficking within the Karamoja sub-region? Many of the young girls are languishing on the streets, begging left, right, and center, and I've heard some it's against their will. That's how they are gotten from the region up to Kampala here to scavenge.
That office that is preventing trafficking children, human trafficking, is actually also centralized at our ministry.
So where?
Not really. It's another unit within the ministry.
ministry. The ministry has...
It's like a unit, like say Weru, within the internal affairs
they are
ministry.
also there.
Nice.
And
so
they
you
are
work together, you
coordinating
coordinate?
from there, yes. The head is actually a commissioner deputized by an immigration senior officer.
Nice.
Agnes, I think you're always seeing her in the media.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are also working with the task force members because issues of trafficking, there is the enforcement element, there is the investigation, there is the other side of trauma healing, a lot. So it's being coordinated at the ministry, but bringing on board Ministry of Gender, other partners, civil society actors, because they are also helping in healing these people, because cases of trafficking, sometimes they come back with a lot of pain and wounds that some of them need to actually be settled down, and then for them to accept that there are always other options, choices in life other than being taken out of your country. And it is an office that is also educating and sensitizing the public, and especially in Karamoja, that we are not stopping labor migration. But if it is there, let it be orderly, in an orderly manner. And if it is there, it should not be involving the minors, especially the children. This is child exploitation. So there is a lot of education that is being done by our ministry, and there are a lot of measures, and some of the culprits have been arrested, and the others are already in courts being prosecuted. But also taking to the context of the unemployment and all that, it is also, I mean, exposing many of our people to being trafficked. Some of them actually they offer themselves. They are actually being smuggled like goods, which is also a very big challenge in terms of peace and security of our country.
Are they also suffering the brunt of sexual violence as they are in transit to Kampala?
Too much of it. Because even right now, Ministry of Gender, which is the licensing ministry of all these labor companies, I think they are making some reforms. There are already reforms they are putting in place. They are trying to regulate. They are actually the people regulating all these companies that are exporting labors and the like. And I think there are better plans to that effect, that they are also putting in place structures for monitoring, even where these people are destined. So it is work in progress.
Indeed. But what efforts have you put in place as this conflict early warning and early response unit to ensure that most of the issues concerning gender-based violence are ironed out before they culminate into any catastrophe?
Of course, early warning and early response.
On GBV?
On GBV. GBV, like other issues, needs focal persons in place for monitoring. Even at community level, there is that need to talk to the people, sensitize the community, and inform them about their roles in dealing with issues of GBV or even preventing. And of course, this is something that is also something that has to be addressed in the long run, but of course with a clear framework in place. It's the framework in place that can all tie in all these loose ends. Yeah, that's why we are urgently pursuing the issue of the peace policy. That if this peace policy is passed and adopted, then it is something to start up with for us to even enhance the existing efforts.
Indeed, Florence, we do have a scourge of teenage pregnancies, early marriages that befall this nation at the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. We did have some 600,000 of our young children, women, young girls, getting impregnated during the course of those 2 years, and we are still counting that number. It could have gone up to 1 million or something. But within the Karamoja sub-region, we would like to know what you're doing to avoid this catastrophe on child marriages and teenage pregnancies in that regard. What are some of the cultural injustices exacerbating the practice?
Yes, for Karamoja in particular, issues of GBV, as it was mentioned by Honorable Rochap, government, of course, there are efforts already in place and initiatives to deal with such vices. Under police institution where I come from, there are already structures in place. up to sub-county level. Wherever there is police, there is always
But is there something you've concretely done on the ground to ensure that you avert the catastrophe?
There's a lot being done there. Our focal point officers, child and family protection officers, closely work with the community in issues of curbing and eradicating GBV, and they work closely with NGOs. NGOs have also come in to assist in addressing some of these issues that are very common, especially in Karamoja. And of course, besides that, at the district level, we have gender focal officers. Yeah, they are there, but also who need to be further enhanced to be able to do their job well. But of course, taking it from there, every parent, whoever is responsible, whether you're a leader or like a leader or a volunteer, you are all responsible.
Indeed. Indeed, Assistant Commissioner Flores Chirabira, we do not want to heap all these questions onto you, but here's our worry as peace actors.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Children are giving birth to other children.
Exactly.
Poverty led me into that situation of getting pregnant. Now I've given birth to another child. I couldn't go to school before. Now I've given birth to another child, meaning that child also won't go to school.
Exactly.
It's going to be intergenerational cycles of poverty. That child is going to be 30 at some point without a single skill, without education. Guess what they'll do? Robberies, cattle rustling, engaging in the same situation, teenage pregnancies and so forth. Killings will take center stage because we've raised the generation using children. And we haven't put in place early warning mechanisms or actually been active on the ground to avert such situations. Do you agree that we have a very big problem ahead of the mountain?
I agree we have a big task ahead of addressing issues of especially our children, families, and the youth.
They can turn into rebels.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And that's the reason why government is promoting education. Education, compulsory education, and especially for children in Karamoja. This is something that has to be designed. And how it should be done to help them take on education, maybe to put up a separate facility far from the region so that these children can be saved from the burden of being abused. Yeah, so that they can also acquire education and transform into useful citizens of this country.
All right, Honorable Ochapi, you have something to add?
Yes.
I'd really like to run to the two panelists online.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, when you talk of education in Karamoja.
Instantaneous reaction.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Our issue in Karamoja is that as members of parliament, we are advocating that there should be compulsory education for all those children who are going age, and it should be a body because for retention of girls in Karamoja, those you see now talking in parliament, where those girls, so those ladies should have gone through boarding schools.
A safe environment.
Exactly.
That is Honorable Peter Lochap. You also do have
and if you give at least for 5 years, at least for 15 years like that, then you would have eradicated it.
All right, in studio with me, I have Miss Juliet Were. She's the Deputy Executive Director for the Women's International Peace Center. In the middle there, he just spoke, Honorable Peter Lochap. He is the Member of Parliament for Bokora East, Napak District. At the very last corner, you do have Assistant Commissioner Chirabira Flores, the National Coordinator for Conflict, Early Warning and Early Response Unit. That is in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. My two panelists are still largely with us on online via Zoom. We do have Stephanie Adupa, and also that is Jessica Atta Ruth, the Kotido Peace Mediator. Let me start with Stephanie Adupa. Stephanie would like to know how the National Peace Policy, if actually becomes a law, it will help us alleviate the crisis within the Karamoja sub-region. All the issues we've mentioned, security, hunger, how can the peace policy help us alleviate all those challenges in one bit? Go ahead. Stephanie Adupa? Stephanie Adupa, how would the national peace policy help us alleviate the crisis within Karamoja? Everything to do with insecurity, hunger-related problems, climate change, and so forth. Talk to us.
Thank you. The national policy is going to do a lot in the region of Karamoja. First of all, looking at as women in Karamoja. As the Honorable Locha put it earlier, traditionally, the people of Karamoja, everything, even decision making, it was on men. If the national policy should be approved, then it will also be for the good of the women of Karamoja, not only Karamoja, for this country, especially as the women of Karamoja, we shall participate in decision making. We shall be involved in all these activities men are doing, because looking at the national policy, it is a mandate for every human being to be part of what is being discussed at home, whether at which level, for everyone to get information within the home set, the district, at national level. So it will be for the good of everybody, including the youth, the elderly person, women, men, and everyone within the community. Because the national policy is going to take information up to the local level, where people really come together, sit and discuss and agree on certain things around the table. And also looking at our law education in Karamoja, it will still help the people know what is should be done within the communities, within this country. It is actually for the benefit of every person within this country, and especially we, the people of Karamoja, being one of the person who is actually advocating for peace building in this region. It will really motivate us, the women of Karamoja, who have been moving kraal to talk to our people, because very many people will come on board.
So much is the peace mediator from Moroto. Let me also talk to Jessica Atta-Ruth, the peace mediator from the Kotido Women Peace Mediator Network. We would also like to know, Jessica, what role women can play in this process of alleviating the crisis within the Karamoja sub-region. What can you, as women, what role can you play? Jessica.
Okay, thank you so much. What the role the women would play in the region, the women always play advisory role. The women engagement in advising the youth. We advise the youth, we do the mediation in families, and even in the nation, we do the advisory role. Why I really need the peace policy to be approved is, when you look at, it's not only Karamoja that needs the peace policy, but is Uganda as a whole should have a peace policy to guide in all programs on peace building. When you look at us back there in Karamoja, our culture betrays us, especially when you look at there are those shrines where our husbands or the men go. The women are not supposed to go there. There are decisions which are always made there. But you find that we are not allowed to go there. When you go there, you take food and stand aside and come back. You're not supposed to enter where they're making that decision. So when we have those kind of peace policy, I think all this will be done. And then also looking at current disarmament program. If we had a peace policy, we would not be having confusion in pinpointing the other, and people would not be dying. We would have a guiding document where even the security operative and also we, the stakeholders, guide us so that we follow the guiding document. And then also, what I'm seeing that it would help also is to have a mechanism, a department, a separate department for peace building, so that we have that budget specific to respond to early warning, because we have always reported cases. And when you report cases, they wait for the partners when somebody has died. So it's really something that government should take it up. And this request is for us from the grassroots, from our hearts, who have the feeling at the ground that we need this peace policy to be approved by Parliament, because it's not a document that only supports them, but even us at the grassroots who really feel that our rights have been violated. So with all this, I think the peace policy is a document that is really so important that we need to be, the Parliament has to approve. I'm happy that we are engaging the Member of Parliament here with us in the talk show. I think he's going to take our voice and other listeners listening from outside there that we women need the policy to be approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well, Jessica Ruthata, the peace mediator from the Kotido Women Peace Mediator Network. And of course, we are coming through with another round of recommendations, but I would just like to shine a light on the good work that my colleague Maureen Nambalirwa is doing, keeping the members, the PWDs in the loop, and so that they gather all this information without missing out on any. This is a highly inclusive TV station and conversation that we are having right now on NTV Uganda. Let's talk about the planned actions and opportunities that we could employ as a country to actually iron out the peace and security challenges in Karamoja and nationwide. Juliet Were. Planned actions and opportunities.
First, of course, the efforts of revitalizing the draft peace policy by a number of actors who have been working since June to ensure that we have a version that is of quality, that the gaps have been filled, that the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Office of the Prime Minister and Parliament can be able to engage with and push the discussion further to enable us have this framework in law. The other plans are around the national development efforts. We have the parish development model that is being championed by government, and we believe that if this program takes a peace perspective that is conflict sensitive and that it centers the communities, then that the derived gains, the aspirations will be achieved. But if it continues, if it is done the way other programs have been done in the past, then we'll not be able to achieve. When we look at our Vision 2040, we are aspiring to lifting our communities from poverty to being able to thrive economically, socially, and politically, with an aspiration that the environment will be conducive, that there will be peace. So for these frameworks to be practical, to achieve, and to take Uganda to the next level, we need to give peace a chance, to give communities a chance, to have a human rights perspective centered through all the procedures, and to ensure that the adequate financing. I know that budgeting has been a challenge. The components that require attention the most are the ones that receive the least.
Juliet Were, before I let you go, and the whole panel would like to know, there is a transition justice policy, and you also do have a draft peace policy. Are there any duplications in the transitional justice policy that we might find in the draft peace policy, or that has been ironed out already?
The TJ policy was passed, and it is focusing at looking at issues of rehabilitation, amnesty. It's not a duplication. The TJ policy is supporting mechanism for the peace policy.
Nice.
So the TJ policy is a subset of the draft peace policy.
Nice. I like that. It actually puts a lot into perspective for our viewer. And indeed, Honorable Peter Lochap, we're talking about your final parting shots on what should be done. Recommendations, planned actions, and opportunities. What should we know in a minute?
Yes, what should be done as far as Karamoja is concerned?
In your opinion?
In my opinion, is that whenever there's a program for Karamoja, the Karamojans must actually get involved.
Fair enough.
That is very important, because if once you lock them out, then you will not be able to achieve what you want. Let's involve the Karamojans. Let's avoid importing people to go and work on behalf of Karamoja. You can imagine a Karamoja where you find somebody, even an office attendant, is from somewhere else. Is that an expatriate? To be an officer attendant, do you qualify to be an expatriate? Who do need expatriate? But the rest should be got from on ground.
I hear you. Thank you so much, Honorable Peter Lochap. I couldn't agree more with that submission indeed.
I've enjoyed being with you.
Indeed, sir. And of course, let me also bring in the Assistant Commissioner, Florence Chirabira, at planned actions and opportunities moving forward.
Our planned actions on our side as a ministry concerned with peace building. Then it is upon us to ensure that this policy gets out of where it is and it gets back to us and it is updated and it is, of course, adopted and passed. And we request that members of parliament do support us when this policy...
And a good thing we have a member of parliament. Yes, so, Honorable Lochap, when should we expect this draft peace policy to be passed into law and implemented?
Exactly.
Yeah, when it is already available in parliament.
Do we have a time frame? Do we have a time frame?
I can't.
Could you tell us your plans when you plan to?
No, for us, we are only waiting for it to be there.
All right, we also do have our panelists on online, that is on Zoom. Stephanie Adupa, please give us your last parting shots, and Jessica Ataruth as well. A minute each before we wrap up. Jessica Ataruth, your last parting shots before we go.
Thank you so much. My last part is for forceful education for Karamoja, for us to achieve.
The fourth industrial revolution is not showing mercy towards Jessica Atta, but we do know that she means well when it comes to the draft peace policy, and she wants it to be, effected into law as soon as yesterday. So let's also listen in from Stephanie Adupa, if she's still there, to get her parting shots. Jessica Adupa, you're live on NTV Uganda. Recommendations. Stephanie Adupa. All right, we seem to have lost our online panelists, but it's been a pleasure having you on this